The plan for today was to head out into the Jemez Mountains, do some snowshoeing, and talk about winter ecology. Well, we didn't quite have the amount of snow that we thought, but we still found some interesting things. So stay tuned and see what we came across. Ecologists classify animals that move on the surface layer of snow into three categories of track patterns. You have walkers, you have hoppers, and you have lopers. Let's see if we can find some of them.
Here's some rabbit tracks. Interesting thing about the rabbit tracks is they're all right around this cluster of trees. So that's really good habitat, maybe a little bit warm spot for the rabbits to live during these cold winter months. But rabbits are hoppers. That makes them good animals to travel in the snow because they can kind of stay on the top with their broad feet. Here's what I would guess to be some rat or rodent, maybe a chipmunk. I'm not really sure what kind of tracks these are, but again, these are hoppers. And what's funny is right there, there's a big elk track heading out in this direction. Here's some tracks of a creature that would be considered a loper. And these are animals that can kind of almost walk on top of the snow. In this case, it's probably a mouse or some other very lightweight rodent. It's interesting to follow these tracks. They usually go from a place of protection to place of protection, like rocks and logs, things like that. As the afternoon sun comes out, these tracks are starting to melt a little, but these are coyote tracks, one of our walkers. They would be considered a walker. What's interesting here is he's dragging one foot occasionally. That's that line there. And then the other thing is these tracks are going this way, but then right over here, there's another set heading out the other way. So the destination of today's hike was Redondo Creek. And believe it or not, this is Redondo Creek. And it's pretty much frozen. But if you listen carefully, you can hear it gurgling underneath. So right along the creek here, there are several of these fenced in areas. And what's interesting is they're not keeping things in, they're keeping things out. So the elk and all don't graze off all these willows and all and let them grow up, because if we pan over, we can see that in between the exclosures, there's no plant life other than this grass. And then it starts up again inside the exclosure. So it's a way to let the riparian areas along Redondo Creek regenerate. I'm not sure it makes it a complete video. It's not scat, but it's pee. Appears to be some elk pee. Remember, it's a rule of thumb, don't eat the yellow snow. Video is now complete. I didn't drop my box of Milk Duds. This is elk scat. The interesting thing here is that the scat is on the top of the snow. This snow is only a few days old, so it's relatively fresh scat. So we came across some elk tracks. And elk are one of those animals that adapt to winter by migrating. Now, we often think of migration as things like birds, and they are doing what we call horizontal migration. They are migrating like from north to south. But what elk do is elk move from higher ground to lower ground. So during the warm months, they're up in the high country, and in the colder months, they moved down lower. Well, that video didn't turn out the way I expected. Thought we'd have a lot more snow. I thought we'd be snowshoeing. But it just goes to show you that not every adventure is going to go to plan. But that's part of the fun. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. And I definitely hope you'll catch us on the next one.